Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. It's Kieran here, and today we're going to be looking at this. This is Polar's newest fitness watch, the Polar Unite. Now notice that we said it's a fitness watch and not a running watch, though it does come with some running skills and it comes with a very, very attractive price tag. So we thought that some of you out there might be considering investing in this as your first ever running watch, or looking at it keenly because of that price tag. So we wanted to help you out in this video, finding out whether or not this is something that as a runner you should invest in. So let's take a closer look. So the Unite sits somewhere between a fitness style fitness tracker and a multi-sports watch. It's essentially for people who like to keep tabs on their workouts, not necessarily runs, but maybe those who aren't quite ready, willing or able to spend the big bucks to do so. This is very much an entry-level product with a price tag at 134.50 in UK pounds. That is to sort of entice people who maybe are just going to invest in their first ever fitness tracking watch, or they want something that's just going to be a little bit more budget friendly. So let's kick off with the design. At 32 grams, the Polar Unite, it's nice and lightweight. It's pleasantly comfortable to wear with a soft silicone strap. It's got a pleasingly kind of simple design. It really does look like an Ignite really, but with a few kind of changes. Polar is struck with much of the design that we enjoyed in that Ignite, albeit with some clear kind of cost-saving replacements. For the first thing, the Ignite's kind of stainless steel bezel has been swapped for a fiberglass polymer casing. The Unite has an ever so slightly smaller display as well. It still has a colour touchscreen, and that screen is bright enough to read in most lights. We found it to be perfect when we're out on the run. There's no option to invert the colours of that display though, which I know is something that a lot of people like, and that is still missing on the Polar Unite. You can't do that, you can't turn it to sort of white on black and black on white. And also another thing is that this has a raise to wake function. As you can see, the screen is off, and you raise it up and it should come on. It doesn't always. And the raise to wake is sort of frustratingly kind of hit and miss. The touchscreen is also a little bit unresponsive and a little bit laggy, which is something that we're kind of always moaning about when it comes to Polar devices. And it's a real problem when you've got a watch like the Unite, which is really, really 95% controlled via the touchscreen. You've got one side button, which is really just used as a back or to load up this quick launcher screen to let you dive into things like a quick start for training. So it's 95% touchscreen, and that with a little bit of lag is a bit of a problem. So flip it over and you can see, I'm going to try and show you that the 4 skin contacts on the back of the Polar Ignite are not there on the Polar Unite. Those skin contacts are there to actually sort of weed out the buggy bits when you're getting heart rate, where there's not good contact and the sensor's not reading right. That doesn't exist on the Unite. It also means that Polar has had to change the charging setup, because before this would be a little round dock that this sat on, and those points here also doubled as the charging. Instead, they've got a very, very weird, long, spiky dock that clips on here. It's a USB stick sort of thing, and it's one of those things that's sort of so easy to lose. It's kind of readily losable, and also it sounds silly, but some plugs, if you've got plug sockets that are close to the floor, or on a kitchen work surface that are close to the work surface, you need to have clearance for the stick to plug in to the bottom of the plug. Most USB plugs, the USB port points downwards when you plug them into the wall. In the UK at least, this is in my plugs. And so in some of the plug sockets around some of the houses, you might not be able to plug it in, which is nuts. And it's just a little bit frustrating. We just wish they'd stuck with what they had. It seemed to work fine. Obviously there's probably a cost saving for the reason that they haven't got those skin contact sensors in there. The straps are the same as the Polar Unite. They're interchangeable. You can see easy sort of quick release, and you can change those out. So the other thing with the straps that it ships with, you've got this clip and tuck kind of mechanism for fastening. And when you're putting that on your wrist, actually it's a little bit fiddly to do. It's very kind of hard to do it one-handed. And also it has a tendency to sort of pinch the skin. And if you've got a little bit of hairy arms like I do on certain places, it's likely to grab on those hairs and it will hurt a little bit. It's not a terrible pain, but it's not very pleasant. Much preferred the normal buckle on the Polar Ignite. Delving into the features, as we said before, this is very much a watch that's aimed at general fitness. So it's more about kind of training, general fitness activity than it is about running. That said, you've got 100 sport modes on here with tailored algorithms, and that includes lots of different running profiles for things like road running, trail running, and that kind of thing. So you're going to get some tailored running profiles on there. One thing we will say, because you have to use the connected GPS with your phone, one little bugbear, if you're the kind of person who hates waiting around outside your house whilst you get a GPS fix, this does have to do that, but it has to connect with your phone, and often it didn't find our phone immediately, and that was a little bit of a wait. You're going to be waiting up to a minute for that connection to happen before you can start running. And sometimes it didn't happen automatically, which was a bit of a faff. We had to open up the app and start to mess around with connecting the device and just waiting a bit. Now, the best feature we think by far on here is something called FitSpark. FitSpark is a feature that was on the Ignite, it was also on the Grit X, and it's essentially a daily workouts recommendation tool that looks at how well you've recovered overnight, your sleep and your nightly recharge recovery, and then will recommend something for you to do today from 3 different categories. One of them is cardio, one of them is strength, and one of them is mobility. So, and it will often give you one sort of recommended workout based on that recovery, but then you can dive in a bit deeper and you can change it. If you don't fancy doing cardio today, you can look at it. It'll also give you a strength session or a mobility session. But it's all based on how well recovered you are and therefore how able you are to do that workout today. When you dive down into those workouts, you also get drill by drill animations on the wrist. So get these little sort of characters that show you what the moves are if they're strength training moves. And it'll also give you an indication of how intense you should do your cardio sessions. So if you're really new to the game, it's a really, really handy beginner's tool. And we feel like if you were to come at this fresh and followed the pattern of training sessions within FitSpark, at the end of a month or 6 weeks, you're going to come out at the end of that much fitter. It is a very, very useful tool and something that's great for that price range. It's also really good for runners if you always shirk your strength work because you're not really sure what the moves are that you should be doing or how to kind of get into that and enter into it. I love it. Sort of half an hour workouts that are very easy to do, and that is just the thing that you might need to start improving that overall approach towards your strength work, which can help you become a better runner. So a handy tool for runners out there who don't really do that very much. Now, sleep and recovery is the same that you'll get on the Polar Ignite and on the Grit X, with really in-depth nightly recharge and recovery readings. They look at not only your sleep, and you'll get a sleep score, and you'll get all those things like sleep stages between light, deep, and all that kind of stuff, sleep duration, interruptions, all of those things are on here, but you also get something called your ANS kind of recharge, and that's a reading about your autonomic nervous system. So basically looking at how well recovered you are on a systemic level. Good example of this is basically if you've gone out and had a few drinks, you might pass out very early in the night or very quickly, feel like you've had a great night's sleep, but actually systemically your body has been fighting to recover from that bit of extra work you've given it to do, and so you won't have had such a good sleep on a deeper level, and that will pick that up. Smartwatch features are limited to notifications only from your phone for things like messages and incoming calls, that kind of stuff. There's no taking calls, there's no music on here, there's no contactless payments, and there's no apps. That is not a surprise based on the price tag, but if you want those things, then I think you're going to have to look for a different watch. When it comes to the accuracy of that built-in optical heart rate, we actually found the Unite's accuracy to be pretty good. We compared it up against lots of different devices, including a Polar H10 chest strap, which is kind of pretty much the gold standard, but also against things like a Phoenix 6 Pro built-in optical heart rate and against the Ignite. And actually, when it came to those overall averages and maxes during a run session, the Unite pretty much matched the H10 beat for beat. It did, on some occasions, have a little bit of a lag in terms of starting to record. We had a few minutes where it wasn't picking up initially in the beginning of a run. And actually there were some times where it was a little bit spiky, or it might have failed to pick up on a piece of activity that we'd done where we'd pushed it up a little bit hard and a little bit higher in terms of the intensity. But pretty much overall, I was surprisingly impressed by how well this is done. When it comes to the GPS accuracy, we put the Unite up against a whole range of watches. That includes the Garmin Phoenix 6 Pro, a Chorus Apex Pro, a Polar Ignite, as well as also a Stride FootPod. And here's the thing, with the GPS, this is going to be difficult to judge because you're always hooking up with your phone, and that means that the accuracy of the stats that you're going to get for your overall distance and your real-time pacing, all of that is going to be very much dependent on the quality of your phone's GPS setup. We tested this using an iPhone XS, and in our test, the Unite and the phone tended to come in longer than our other devices. On one very long run, for example, the Grit X clocked 36.5 miles, while the phone connected Unite registered 42 miles. So that's quite a big difference there. So on a shorter run, the Ignite clocked 9.45 kilometers against the Unite's 10.34 kilometers as well. So overall, we found, tethered to the phone that we were using, that the Unite tended to read long. Battery life wise, the Polar has quite a big claim here, and it's quite a competitive number. 50 hours of runtime on a single charge using the phone connected GPS and the heart rate monitor firing, and then also 4 days of general usage to boot. So that runtime is much better than the Ignite 17 hours and the Garmin Forerunner 45's 13 hours, and also the Fitbit Charge 4's comparatively poor 5 hours. So in our test, the Unite just about clocked 3.5 days, and that included 3.5 hours of training thrown into our general usage. And we eked out 4 days with only an hour's activity thrown in there. It generally lost about 10% charge overnight against the Ignite's 20%. The bottom line on battery is that you're likely to be sticking the Unite on charge every 4 days with general usage, or every 3 to 4 days if you throw in 3 to 4 workouts in that period. Onto the verdict then, and there's loads to love about the Polar Unite. First up, that price tag's really, it's a happy price point. Secondly, there's loads of really good, rich fitness skills to this watch. Sleep and nightly recharge are among the best tools that you can get for that kind of thing on any watch, and that's fantastic to see them here. FitSpark is a great guide if you're new to the whole fitness and running game. It's also a really nice kind of simple watch, fuss-free, nice and lightweight, it's nice and comfortable. It's got a decent bright screen. If you're a runner who currently tracks your runs with an app and you're not too bothered about, really, really high accuracy over runs and, for your distance and your pace timing, this could be a nice, easy budget step up for you to start tracking your runs with a watch and moving your stats where you can see them onto your wrist. Particularly if your budget won't stretch, it's a really, really solid option. But for most runners, and we are going to judge this as a running watch, I'm sorry, Polar, we know you said that this was a fitness watch and you were very keen to point out to us we shouldn't judge it alone for being a running watch. But we feel like people out there might be runners who might want to buy this just for its running skills. So we're going to judge it on that. We are the run testers after all. So we think that GPS is going to be a bigger mission for a lot of people. And actually, if your budget can stretch, we would really seriously recommend looking at spending an extra £40 to upgrade to the Polar Ignite, which is going to give you all of the things that this does, just has that kind of safety blanket of accurate GPS, or even looking at something like the Garmin Forerunner 45 for a little bit extra. It's going to be worth your money. You're going to be able to grow into that watch a little bit more. There's another thing here which I think is a problem really overall. When you look at the Unite, that touchscreen is still a little bit annoying, and for a watch that relies heavily on a touchscreen, 95% of the controls here are touchscreen based. It is a little bit of a bugbear, and we do wish it was a little bit better. And actually, we kind of prefer button controls when it comes to our watches, really overall. Having said that, if you are more into your fitness than you are into your running, and you want something that's going to hold your hand through a lot of kind of fitness endeavors, then this could be worth a look. And there you have it. That is our Polar Unite review. If you have any questions or comments about this device, hit us up in the comments below. We're happy to answer them. Also, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notifications bell, and we'll bring you more running watch reviews as and when we get them. We hope there's going to be a few of those soon. I've been Kieran. We've been the Run Testers. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again soon.